Well, some new proof today that size really does the children on the belief that being short is emotionally disabling.
But now a new study from the Journal of Pediatrics found that children who are very short or very tall have the same ability to adjust in life and make plenty of friends. Good news for those who are a little self-conscious about what the kids in class might say.
Coming up tonight when KCRA 3 reports at 6 o'clock, an accident kills 3 Placer County teens, the latest in a trend of crashes involving high speeds and no seatbelts.
The fight to ease California's 3 strikes law heats up, and issue voters will decide in November. And
group gets a very big donation to help increase awareness of the arts.
That's all coming up tonight at 6. Now stay tuned for NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams tonight, sitting in for Tom Brokaw.
Death toll, 1,000 Americans now dead in the war in Iraq as bold new attacks erupt in a Baghdad slum. War, money, and politics, a record budget deficit. John Kerry wants to talk about that, but the president keeps pounding him on Iraq. Inside View, dramatic videotape of the terrorist siege at a Russian school as angry mourners mob Red Square. And Lifeline, America's most high-profile patient has millions of other baby boomers asking, is it too late to get heart healthy?
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw. Substituting tonight, Brian Williams.
Good evening. Late today, the Pentagon announced the war in Iraq has passed a sad milestone. 1,000 Americans have now died since the start of this conflict over 17 months ago. This was an especially violent day in one part of Iraq, a Baghdad slum called Sadr City. Just the latest bad day in a long military campaign that continues tonight for the Americans who remain there. We begin tonight at the Pentagon with NBC's Jim McLeshevsky.
For the third straight day, American soldiers battled Iraqi insurgents in Sadr City on the edge of Baghdad. At least 35 people were reported killed, including 1 U.S. soldier. 4 other Americans were killed today in roadside bombings and attacks throughout Iraq. In Fallujah, American airstrikes reportedly killed as many as 100 enemy forces. At the Pentagon today, Defense Secretary Rumsfeld warned, as Iraq approaches national elections in January, insurgents and terrorists will do all they can to disrupt the process.
And the likelihood is that they will increase the violence rather than decrease the violence.
But at a time when the violence and the U.S. death toll are on the rise, reaching 1,000 American dead today, U.S. troops are being pulled back from the fight. Under pressure from the Iraqi interim government, the U.S. has pulled its ground troops out of 5 Iraqi cities, creating so-called no-go zones. The intent was to lower the profile of U.S. forces and encourage negotiations. Instead, it's turned the cities into relative safe havens for insurgents and foreign fighters, and temporarily tied the hands of American military commanders.
We don't have control of the national capital, Baghdad, Najaf, Karbala, Ramadi, Fallujah. We've ceded huge parts of this country to insurgent control.
Pentagon officials say it's essential Iraq regain control of the insurgent cities before the elections, and the U.S. military has a plan to do it. If negotiations fail, the U.S. would retake the cities by force, one by one, and turn them over to Iraqi security.
The one obvious drawback is the Iraqis can't do it right now. They're not very well trained or equipped.
But training Iraqis to provide their own security could take years, meaning the American death toll in Iraq will surely rise. Jim McLeshevsky, NBC News, the Pentagon.
In the political world, today's news out of Iraq has already become a factor in the race for president, where Iraq was already dominating the debate today. NBC's David Gregory is traveling with the president tonight.
On the campaign trail, today's grim milestone in Iraq added new resonance to an already intense debate over the war.
More than 1,000 of America's sons and daughters have now given their lives on behalf of their country, on behalf of freedom, in the war on terror.
The president in Missouri today spoke of American sacrifices, but more pointedly about what he sees as his rivals' inconsistency over Iraq.
He woke up yesterday morning with yet another new position.
Seizing on Senator Kerry's charge that Iraq was the wrong war at the wrong time, The president accused Kerry of parroting his one-time rival, the anti-war candidate Howard Dean, who said this at the height of the primary fight.
I think this was the wrong war at the wrong time.
The Bush campaign was also eager to highlight a Kerry statement from that same Democratic debate in May of last year, at odds with his current position.
I think it was the right decision to disarm Saddam Hussein.
No matter how many times Senator Kerry flip-flops, we were right to make America safer by removing Saddam Hussein from power.
Kerry in North Carolina today disputed the notion that he's flip-flopped over Iraq, saying the issue is not his vote to authorize the war, but how the administration has used that power.
It's not that I would have done just one thing differently in Iraq. I would have done everything differently in Iraq.
At a town hall meeting today, Kerry, who is still struggling to clarify his war stance, sought to define the war in economic terms.
And he chose for America to go it alone, and today, all of America is paying this price. Nearly 90% of the cost of this war is coming out of your pocketbooks.
Tonight, Kerry campaign officials say in the coming days, the senator will do more to emphasize the cost of the Iraq war in economic and human terms, on a day when the war's death toll gave the Iraq issue more political urgency. David Gregory, NBC News, Columbia, Missouri.
And now to the economy and another issue that could amount to gasoline around the flame of a presidential campaign, the massive federal deficit. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office reported today the deficit for this fiscal year will hit a record $422 billion. How bad is that number? As NBC's Chip Reed tells us tonight, it depends largely on who you ask.
In Congress today, Democrats pointed the finger directly at President Bush, arguing that his tax cuts for the well-to-do are behind the exploding red ink and predicting dire consequences for the economy.
It is going to mean a weaker economy in the future. It is going to mean higher interest rates. It is going to be a United States that continues to go around the world with a tin cup asking other countries to loan us money.
But Republicans, including President Bush, see the new deficit number as good news, noting that today's $422 billion number, while a record, is $55 billion less than the Congressional Budget Office predicted 6 months ago. That, they say, is evidence of economic progress, what the Bush campaign called a sign of the economic growth that is a result of President Bush's leadership on tax relief. Republicans insist today's deficit number is no cause for alarm, noting that as a percentage of the economy, deficits were bigger in the late 1980s. One of the few nonpartisan voices to chime in today was the man behind the new deficit report, who ominously stated that the retirement of the baby boom generation is already placing a significant burden on the economy.
It's here. I mean, there's no question. It's an important economic and budgetary phenomenon now.
Both President Bush and Democratic presidential candidate John Kerry have proposed billions of dollars in new spending, proposals that could make future deficits even bigger. Chip Reed, NBC News, the Capitol.
It has been nearly a week since the world first heard about that horrifying terrorist standoff at a school in southern Russia in which more than 300 people died. Tonight, for the first time, we are seeing what was going on inside that school on crude handheld videotapes recorded by the militants themselves. Here is NBC's Jim Maceda.
The chilling footage aired on Russian TV tonight showed what it was like inside the school gym, hours after it became the flashpoint of the 53-hour hostage siege. Islamic militants summoned camouflage have herded over 1,100 students, teachers, and parents onto the floor. Captives fanning themselves in the stifling heat. Militants seen wiring makeshift explosives around the hostages. A female hostage taker dressed in black points a pistol. The gym floor appears stained with blood. In another scene, a masked militant seems to be testing a detonator with his foot under a basketball hoop, while a small child, frightened, holds his hands behind his head. This perhaps one of the bombs that exploded 2 days later, collapsing the roof and sending hostages fleeing, many to their deaths, as Russian forces stormed the building. The images were released on a day when hundreds of thousands protested across Russia against an unprecedented act of terror that killed more than 150 children. In Moscow, the largest protest, tens of thousands called on President Vladimir Putin to get tougher on terrorists, some drawing the battle lines. We can't tolerate this any longer, he says. Now there are heroes and there are enemies. Back in Beslan, there were dozens more funerals today and more grief from stricken Russian families as the death toll rose to nearly 340. And all over Russia, the fear that it could happen again. Jim Macedo, NBC News, Moscow.
Some of the young survivors of the terrorist massacre at that school are now telling their stories, including two brothers, Aslan Zarasov, age 14, and his younger brother Soslan, who is 12. Both boys managed to escape, Aslan with burns on his back. Hear now what it was like for them, in their own words, beginning when the gunmen stormed their school.
I was with my friends from school, there on the ceremony, when I saw the cars with Arabs who got out screaming, Allah Akbar, and shooting in the sky.
I thought that this was some kind of game. They screamed, "Get into the building, quick!"
I did not want to run away alone without my brother. He is my brother. I could not leave him alone.
They gave us some water the first day, just in our palm, and only once let us go to the bathroom. They began to make bombs, stretched out from one wall to the other, on the rope, across and around the walls.
I'm very angry at the terrorists because they jeered us, did not give us water, drink your urine, they said. They killed people in front of us. It was scary, really.
They took men out to the corridor and shot them there, killed them, and suddenly a big explosion happened. I was blown back, and then again I managed somehow to get on the window and jumped out. I hurt myself.
After this explosion, the windows were broken. I jumped and got out. I thought they would shoot at me. I ran. I saw one who wanted to shoot at me. I hid behind the car. He thought he had killed me and looked over the other side to shoot others. 4 or 5 of my classmates died. I am so sorry about it. My teacher was dead too.
I am lucky. I could have died too. September 3rd was my birthday. I feel like I was born again.
Two young brothers who had been hostages were then lucky enough to escape, telling their story tonight in their own words. Up next, as we continue this Tuesday night, NBC News In Depth, our special series, 12 Ways to Make America Safer. Tonight, what's in the thousands of shipping containers that enter this nation every week and who's checking to see if they're safe? And later, America's talking about heart disease after a former president's close call that has a lot of people calling their doctors.
Hey, Steve. Hey, anything else today? No, thanks. I'll see you tomorrow.
With more ways to use us than ever before, the entire U.S. Postal Service is working for you.
Marie Callender was like a lot of grandmas, and nobody has ever indulged us like Grandma. Jewelry boxes had no locks. Cake didn't need a reason, and the good piece was guaranteed. And Marie Callender's also believes in a little indulgence, so we never cut corners. Like our country fried chicken. It has white meat made tender and crispy, whipped potatoes, and sweet corn on the cob. Marie Callender's Country Fried Chicken. Sit down, eat, enjoy.
So, what's the weekend hold in store for you? Ask your doctor if a free sample of prescription Cialis is right for you. Cialis, are you ready?
I train for marathons because I like to stay thin. You don't feel if you have high cholesterol. I found out it was 240 and I was a little bit shocked. I like Quaker oatmeal. They said if you eat it for 30 days, it helps lower cholesterol. At the end of it, it was down 30 points. Yeah, baby.
Oh, Capital One.
could find an island inside your specially marked Capital One envelope. Check your mail for the Capital One No Hassle Island giveaway. You could instantly win your own private island.
What's in your wallet?
Tomorrow on Today, an in-depth look at airport security. Part of a special series from NBC News. 12 ways to make America safer. Only on Today.
Ever wonder why we call it hardball?
If you're going to ask a question, well, that's a tough question. It takes a few words.
I wish we lived in the day where you could challenge a person to a duel. Get out of my face.
See why Hardball with Chris Matthews may be the hottest show in cable news. Weeknights only on MSNBC.
NBC News In Depth tonight, our week-long network-wide series of special reports that we are calling 12 Ways to Make America Safer. Tonight, we look at America's ports. You may be surprised at how easy it is to ship goods into this country in containers that are never inspected. Some say it is a system the U.S. should and could fix, and fast. Here is NBC's Fred Francis In Depth.
There are so many what-ifs, it's unnerving. That from a federal agent worried about nearly 8 million containers annually coming into U.S. ports.
You're going to have to unload. It's deeper in.
It's how China ships to Walmart, how wine comes from Italy. In New York Harbor today, so-called high-risk containers from Turkey drew 6 layers of inspection: dogs, radiation scanners, x-rays.
Most of the people that work in this port saw those buildings fall down firsthand. We watched the attack. We know what they're capable of. We know they're capable of doing it again.
Containers are the backbone of American commerce, and security around them no secret. Stop them, and the economy begins to crumble.
And of the nearly 8 million containers, only about 6% get a close inspection. A low number, say terrorism experts, because this is where we are most vulnerable. And perhaps this is the easiest fix.
Experts agree increasing inspection to 10% could create a quantum leap in protection and would be relatively inexpensive, a few $100 million.
There's no question the system is open and vulnerable.
Stephen Flynn, America's top port expert, was in Hong Kong today examining a safer system.
One thing that is actually being done here in Hong Kong as a pilot is to scan every container that comes on a terminal that would end up on a ship heading for the United States.
That's part of the Homeland Security plan. The other is operational but understaffed, putting agents in places like Rotterdam inspecting more containers, though only 100 agents are now in only 24 overseas ports.
16 is the 2 good ones. I don't know where the other 2 are at.
How to determine a suspect container? Homeland Security Chief Tom Ridge today showed off the National Targeting Center for the first time. Here, a container's origin and contents are analyzed.
This is a state-of-the-art hub where we can pinpoint all potentially high-risk cargo,
enabling more effective inspections overseas and here at home, making America safer right now. Fred Francis, NBC News, New York Harbor.
And our series continues here tomorrow night when we'll look at security at nuclear power plants in this country. Some say one important change right now could make this country a lot safer. Up next when we continue, after back-to-back hurricanes counting up the emotional and economic cost in Florida.
Breakfast in bed.
It's just you, me, and the cornflakes.
You'd have to eat 4 bowls of cornflakes to get the B vitamins in 1 bowl of Total.
Sweetie, how about the Raisin Bran?
You'd need 6 bowls to match the zinc in Total.
Glad we went with the queen size.
Special K.
40 bowls to match Total's calcium.
Isn't that the coffee table?
Whole grain Total's got 100% daily value of 12 vitamins and minerals. No other leading cereal comes close.
I'll have the Total.
Total Raisin Bran. 1 bowl, 100%.
My guys go all day long. Ow! So their cuts get protection that keeps on working.
Neosporin is 8 times more effective than even the leading prescription at keeping skin bacteria free. That's Neosporin. Every cut, every time.
Millions of us are hospitalized with heart-related chest pain or a certain type of heart attack, what doctors call ACS. The cause? For most, it was blood platelets that formed clots, which blocked blood from getting to the heart. Think aspirin and other heart medications alone are enough? Plavix could help make a difference. So ask your doctor about adding Plavix. Taken with aspirin and your current treatment, Plavix goes beyond what you're taking to help raise protection against heart attack or stroke. Plavix and your other medications work in different ways. Plavix taken with aspirin plays its own role in keeping blood platelets from sticking together and forming clots, which helps keep blood flowing.
If you have a medical condition that causes bleeding, such as a stomach ulcer, you shouldn't use Plavix. The risk of bleeding may increase with Plavix, and when you take Plavix with certain other medicines, including aspirin. Review your medicines with your doctor to minimize this risk. Additional rare but serious side effects could occur.
Add more protection against heart attack or stroke with Plavix.
Women. They want to feel their power. They want to flex their muscles. They want to be strong and sweet forever. And they want to enjoy their calcium. One delicious Viactive Soft Calcium Chew twice a day has the same bone-building calcium as those big, chalky pills. Viactive Soft Calcium Chews, because women should get exactly what they want.
KCRA 3's Traffic Pulse 3. Your morning commute will never be the same. Traffic Pulse 3 will show you more than traffic problems. You'll get traffic solutions, precise travel times, and alternate routes. Traffic Pulse 3, only when KCRA 3 reports in the mornings.
Dateline Friday, the hiker who cut off his arm to save his life. Tom Brokaw with an all-new Dateline Friday, 8/7 Central on NBC.
Protecting nuclear plants. NBC Nightly News tomorrow.
There are weather extremes to show you again tonight. First, we go to western Japan, where a powerful typhoon has killed at least 3 people, forced thousands out of their homes, and knocked out power to about 1 million households. 25 crew members from 2 cargo ships are missing in stormy high seas. And in China, it is the rainy season now. Torrential summertime storms have caused deadly floods and landslides there. More than 100 people are dead or missing. Many more are trapped by swirling and muddy waters, and more rain, sadly, in the forecast. Of course, here in the U.S., so many Floridians are desperate to return home after Hurricane Francis. They're ignoring state officials' pleas to stay off the roads, making things even more difficult for emergency crews working to clean up the damage and turn on the lights. And there is the cost of quickly mounting storms, one on top of the next. Here is NBC's Martin Savage.
When it comes to punch, Francis was no Charlie, but she could run billions ahead. Initial insurance estimates for Charlie are $6.8 billion. For Francis, they're as high as $10 billion.
Charlie was much quicker in hitting and exiting the state. Francis was wider.
Hardest hit, officials say, was tourism. Visitors stayed away Labor Day weekend, and though 3 million evacuated Floridians took their rooms, they just hunkered down. Florida's $9 billion a year citrus industry was pummeled again.
Next month we've been picking some.
In Sebastian, the only commercial fishing marina for 60 miles is out of business.
A disaster, you know, it's shock and awe. I mean, I'm still a little dazed by it.
It's the blow to small business that offers the biggest glimpse of the financial picture. Many remain closed without water or power.
Where do you start?
At Barbara Logan's Seaside Hotel,
It's a mess.
the beach starts at the front desk. The ocean squishes at her feet. Her insurance deductible is $40,000.
A lot of people are going to be reading one of these, their insurance policies, 8 pages of fine print of essentially what's not covered. But the big print spells it out. This policy contains a separate deductible for hurricane losses, which may result in high out-of-pocket expenses to you.
In Florida, the full price of Francis is still almost anyone's guess. But it's a cost almost everyone's expected to pay. Martin Savage, NBC News, Melbourne Beach, Florida.
On Wall Street today, investors just back from the Labor Day weekend were apparently in a buying mood. The Dow was up nearly 83 points. NASDAQ was up 14. We'll be right back with what they're calling the Bill Clinton wake-up call for baby boomers, now wondering about their hearts.
NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw, brought to you in part by Aflac. Ask about it at work.
Hyundai Sonata is J.D. Power & Associates' highest-ranked entry midsize car in initial quality. Be prepared for a little extra attention. The Sonata from Hyundai.
You know, more and more men are making the move to Levitra. Maybe it's time you discovered what all the excitement's about.
Make your move today. Ask your doctor if a free trial of Levitra is right for you. Levitra, when it counts.
Most masks transform you on the outside, but this one transforms you from the inside out. New Olay Deep Cleansing Clay Mask. It unpacks your pores to detoxify like a facial, so you can unmask the pure you.
Heartburn on rye.
That's more than heartburn. That pressure and bloating is gas.
And we don't treat gas.
I do. Fast heartburn plus gas relief. That's Maalox Max.
Thanks, Max.
Maalox Max. When you have it all, treat it all.
Life is unpredictable, but your asthma doesn't always have to be.
Go.
Because today there's Advair, the first and only preventative asthma product to treat the two main components of asthma, airway constriction and inflammation.
Go.
Advair is clinically proven to significantly increase symptom-free days. To help you do more of the things you want to do,
go.
More of the things you have to do, and more of what life throws your way. Advair won't replace fast-acting inhalers for sudden symptoms and should not be taken more than twice a day. Rare but serious asthma episodes and asthma-related fatalities occurred in a study with Ceravent, one of the components of Advair. These risks may be greater in African Americans. While adjusting to a switch from an oral steroid like prednisone to the inhaled steroid in Advair, be very careful, as you may be less able to heal after surgery, infection, or serious injury. See your doctor if your asthma does not improve. Talk to your doctor to see if Advair is right for you.
Go.
Coming up at 6 on KCRA 3, another high-speed collision makes 4 deadly accidents in the past 2 months, but police say speeding isn't the only problem. Plus, diet or exercise, which is most important to keep your heart healthy? Why experts say it's better to concentrate more on one than the other. Tonight at 6.
Here in New York tonight, former President Bill Clinton is said to be resting comfortably after his quadruple bypass surgery yesterday. Many Americans are still getting over the shock that the former president, who appeared so fit and vigorous of late, was apparently a heart attack waiting to happen. And it has a lot of Americans wondering about all those years of not so heart-healthy behavior. Our report tonight from NBC News Chief Science Correspondent Robert Bazell.
David Hunke did not pay attention to his many risk factors for heart disease.
I felt pretty good.
Then on his 50th birthday, he had a heart attack. It is an all too common story, and cardiologists hope Mr. Clinton's case will inspire millions to take steps earlier to reduce their risk.
Well, this is very clearly a wake-up call to all of America that treating cholesterol is very important.
Thank you. The former president did lose weight recently.
It wasn't enough to reverse years and years of unhealthful living.
Mr. Clinton also took stress tests and said he aced them for 4 or 5 years. The problem, the test can miss severe blockage.
A negative stress test does not make you immune from having a heart attack.
In fact, there is no good test for people without symptoms.
You're going to have a series of breath holds.
Doctors are working with heart CT scans, but most say they are still unreliable, and they expose the patient to huge doses of radiation. Doctors say it is important that people understand that even though Mr. Clinton got bad heart disease, it is never too late to try to reduce the risk. What is needed is well known. Stop smoking, exercise, avoid saturated fats, and get your blood pressure and bad cholesterol way down. The experts say Mr. Clinton missed a big chance when he stopped taking a statin, a cholesterol-lowering drug.
Had he been on a statin medication with much lower cholesterol levels, that might have prevented his developing these severe blockages.
As for David Hunke, he now takes a statin as part of his comprehensive program to prevent more heart disease. Doctors wish more people would think about prevention before the disease strikes. Robert Bazell, NBC News, New York.
That is Nightly News for this Tuesday evening. I'm Brian Williams reporting tonight from New York. Tom Brokaw will be back here with you tomorrow night. Good night.
3 teens killed in a weekend accident, part of a growing and dangerous trend of high speeds and no seatbelts.
Will you vote to ease California's tough 3 strikes law? A political fight is heating up over how much is too much.
And a military recruiter accused of taking students off a high school campus without their parents' permission.
Good evening. I'm John Alston.
And I'm Lois Hart in for Sarah Gardner. KCRA 3 reports at 6 starts now.
Live from Northern California's news leader, you're watching KCRA TV, where the news comes first and home of live Copter 3. This is KCRA 3 reports at 6.
High speeds being blamed for a Labor Day accident that killed 3 Placer County teenagers, 3 friends in a tight-knit community. It's a scene that has become all too common this summer. Teens and young adults killed in accidents where police say the driver was going much too fast. The latest accident involves 3 teens from Lincoln killed in a crash on Highway 99 near Chico yesterday. KCRA 3's Mike DeSalle is following the story. And Mike, we understand there also may be another contributing factor to these accidents?
There is, John, but first and foremost, this latest crash has had a traumatic effect, as you alluded to, on students, teachers, parents here in Lincoln. But for Highway Patrol investigators, this latest deadly accident is highlighting an apparently growing new trend. The trend of more and more teenagers